Before we start today's show, I want to share a listing on eBay that really caught my eye of this beautiful, solid 18 karat gold chronograph, 40mm size, 100% feedback from the seller. They've put it on this rather loud pink strap, but ignore the pink strap because the actual watch itself, let's look at the pictures, is absolutely stunning. Pretty much see that the dial looks kosher and original. There's a little bit of patina, you know, some of the scale has worn away, but look at the numerals, stunning balance. But what's really kind of intrigued me about it, let's look at the other pictures. Hallmark on the back for the gold, and inside we have a Landeron 51 caliber movement. Now Landeron is a really interesting company because they were a big Swiss chronograph movement maker, founded all the way back in the 1870s. In the 1920s, they started switching from making watches to exclusively movements. Now, let's just have a look at the listing. They're really famous for their column wheel chronographs in the 1930s, although this is not a column wheel. Landeron actually developed the first cam-actuated chronograph just before World War II. Now this is, as we see here, this is the caliber 51, which is pretty interesting because the few calibers before this one was the first of their movements to have two buttons. Before they had three buttons on their chronograph, one stop, one start, and one reset. So this is obviously, as you can see, with the two buttons. So it makes sense. It's definitely from the 40s. The case is in pretty good shape. It's a very nice example. I just find it intriguing. It's a sweet deal. There's a ton of chronographs about, but just something about it just speaks to me. It's got a kind of salmon and gold dial, which I just find really alluring, and it would be nice to own a Landeron. I think that was something, quite a prestigious Swiss chronograph maker. If I had the money, I would certainly put an offer in. Anyway guys, I thought I'd start off with something a little bit different. Let's roll the intro and get into today's video. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be doing something a slightly bit different. I'm going to be sharing my watch biography, and I believe it was KDP, my good friend KDP. If you're not familiar with his channel, do check it out. He coined the phrase, I believe. I might be mistaken, although KDP is relevant to today's video because he just purchased a beautiful little Seamaster, which happens to be one of the first luxury watches I purchased way back in the day. So a very special watch for me. They're really great value on the used market, the mid-size, because most people want the regular size, but the mid-sizes are great. Anyway, I'm already digressing and going totally off on a tangent, but let me get back to the subject at hand. Now, of course, before I get into this, I got to do wristwatch check. I'm pulling a Schwarzkopf today. I have my little Hoffman, my GMT Master 2, the Rolex, of course, the Pepsi, or I tend to call it the Hoffman in honor of Dustin Hoffman from Marathon Man, who wore one of these, and he wore his on a Jubilee, and I've managed to upgrade it recently as well. And on this side, I'm wearing my little data bank. Did I get this for Christmas or my birthday? I think it was Christmas I got this. So very cool retro watch indeed. And as you can see, it just makes me smile just looking at it. So yeah, this is very useful actually to, I use the alarms to remind me to do things throughout the day. So Very, very useful, and of course multiple time zones, of course. So anyway, let me get my notes here, and I must say this little darling has been really difficult to take off my wrist, and I'm not sure what to call it. I'm thinking of nicknaming it the Baby Blue, obviously because of that second hand. Guys, do suggest nicknames. It's becoming a thing now. I can't really put a Y on it like I always do. Seamaster E, that doesn't really work. Omi, maybe the Omi, I don't know. Guys, do suggest your nicknames for the little Seamaster. So where does it all start? Well, this is a tricky one. Now, my first memories of watches were predominantly Swatch and Casio from the 90s. I think the very first watch I remember is probably the Casio F91W. I'll add a picture. Last year I rebought it for that priceless trip down memory lane. Fantastic, iconic watch, only $10. I love that watch, and I remember when I had that watch, I can't remember how it came about. I think I swapped it for some micro machines in the playground, and this is when I was growing up in South London. So yeah, I think micro machines were all the rage. They were a currency in the playground, and I thought I was the coolest kid in school because I had that watch. Even the smell of the plastic takes me back, like a Madeleine moment. Just, you know, it takes me right back to the playground. Although my first memories of horology was the chimes, the hourly chime of my grandfather's beautiful ormolu Louis XIV clock that I inherited. Pop a little key in, he'd wind it every day, and it was just a daily routine. So that was my first kind of exposure to a mechanical movement, because of course it had the pendulum as well. I didn't get into automatics until quite later on. Around the same time, because I'm Italian as well, I'd travel to Italy every year. I'd spend a few months, mostly in the summer, with my family in Rome and Gaeta, which is a peninsula just between Rome and Naples. We'd spend the summers there at my godfather's house, and every flight there, my mum would buy a Swatch. She'd buy one for herself and one for me, and I don't think I have any of these watches. I don't even think I got the Casio, which is a real shame. This will kind of tie in later with one of my biggest mistakes, and actually that video really inspired today's video, because I've got something number 16 to add to the list. But anyway, the 90s was all about Swatches and Casios for me. The 80s I was too young, I don't think I had a watch. It wasn't until much later that I inherited my father's Seiko. This was an automatic piece, and this was my first automatic piece. Now, unfortunately, I don't have this watch either, and for the life of me, I don't know what happened to it. I never wore it. It just sat in a drawer because it was very much a grown man's watch. It wasn't really adequate for a child, or I was nearing my teens then. Plain black dial. It had a stretchy kind of bracelet, stainless steel. Very simple. In fact, it reminds me very much stylistically of the Saab 033. So I think maybe that's a reason why I love the Saab as well. Also, I inherited my grandfather's pocket watch with the Charles Frodsham, which is still in my collection. I don't have it here in New York. It's back home, safe in the bank. Back home, because obviously it's an original and it's beautifully made. It being a pocket watch, I couldn't really wear it. I was too young to really understand just how important, how beautiful that watch is. I was lucky enough to inherit that, the Ormolu clock, and of course his signet rings, which is a tradition I carry on. The Charles Frodsham was kind of an inspiration for this channel. The logo of the channel is also my family crest, the lion holding the Crusader cross, and that is on the back of the Charles Frodsham. You couldn't get two watches too dramatically, you know, both sides of the spectrum. Something kind of horology, hand engraved, you know, beautifully handmade, solid 18 karat yellow gold, the heirloom, and then, you know, the 70s classic entry level Seiko. It kind of represents me and my different backgrounds. So from a very early age, I was exposed to two dramatically opposing sides of the spectrum. And in a way, that's always kind of inspired me not to be snobby about watches and to embrace all levels of horology. So fast forward a little bit, to my teens. And let me just read here. I actually purchased my own first automatic piece when I was studying in Florence in college, a Citizen Eagle 7, and this is a day date, very, very much in the vein of the Rolex day date, you know, fluted bezel, even the Jubilee bracelet. I loved it. It was 36 millimeters, and I bought it from a store opposite the Duomo in Florence, as you know, Brunelleschi's famous Duomo. And I ended up going back to the same jewelers opposite the Duomo. God knows if they're there anymore. It would be lovely to go back, and I will go back eventually. I went back to the same jewelers, and I actually purchased my engagement ring that I proposed to my now wife from that store as well. So it was very, very special, and I had that automatic watch all the way up until I moved to New York. In fact, I still had that watch when I was studying here in New York. I moved to New York in the mid-noughties, I think about, when was it? About 2006, I think. 2005, 2006, around about that kind of time. So I went to music school here. Then I graduated and I got into an internship. At that time, I didn't have any money. I was absolutely broke as a joke. I then finished the internship and I got offered my first job. I was offered a job actually at the studio that I was interning at. I decided not to stay there. The writing was on the wall in terms of the music industry. When I was working in the music industry, it was the end. It was the beginning of the end. Napster had really kind of come and gone. Back then, record companies had $1 million budgets for albums. Nowadays, very, very rare thing. I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I decided to diversify my skills, and I went into, you know, anything I could get my hands on, any kind of gig. So I started going freelance, and I remember getting my first big paycheck. And of course, what did I do? Because this is my late teens, I think early 20s. Yeah, this is my early 20s now, so we're in my early 20s. My first paycheck, I bought my first luxury timepiece. I have a feeling that the Rolex I bought first. And of course, let me get the reference, because you guys know I'm terrible with references. Oyster quartz, 17013, I believe. I might be wrong, but anyway, it was two-tone with a blue dial, gold fluted bezel. And you're probably wondering, quartz, oyster quartz, what a weird choice. Well, my logic was at the time it was going to be my dress watch. I didn't want to have something I'd have to set. The date just having a little bit of gold, because I was in the music industry. Everybody had gold presidents, and date just, and gold this and gold that. So I wanted something a little bit like that, but not too loud, right? So I thought that was a good kind of middle ground. And then for every day, I bought my first Seamaster, Omega Seamaster. It was the mid-size automatic, the Bond, the same as KDP has just. I did think he did an unboxing. Those two were very special watches, and I kept my Seikos and Citizens as beta watches, and for a very long time I was a 3-watch collection guy. I had the Seamaster for every day, my Rolex Oyster Quartz for smart, and then I would change out, you know, I had let me read some of the... then I bought my first Flightmaster. I had an SKX for the first time. And these would kind of come and go as my betas. And I would have fun buying and getting to know that kind of entry level as my beta watches. One worthy, notable watch, I must mention, Citizen Perpetual Calendar, I think BL540052A. And this had everything. It was perfect beta watch because it had Eco Drive, had a chronograph, had a perpetual calendar, had alarms. It kind of did everything that my more expensive luxury pieces didn't. For a very long time, I continued with this 3-watch collection rule. And about this kind of time, this is my mid-teens, I had really caught the watch bug. Reading forums, reading magazines, going on YouTube, watching reviews, that kind of thing. I hadn't started my channel until much later. With catching the watch bug, I started flipping. I flipped the Oyster Quartz. I wanted to go all automatic. So I then got the engine turned Datejust, a later automatic. Then I flipped that one again. That was blue dial with Romans, I believe, to the last Datejust. And I think the Datejust were very inspired by that Citizen that I had from Florence. The last Datejust I had was the 116200, and in fact I sold that last year, no, the year before last, to raise funds for my Navitimer. That watch I did review, I managed to review on the channel. The smooth bezel, Romans on the dial, blue. I always went for the blue dials, I just loved them. 36mm, gorgeous, perfect for me. Then I started flipping I flipped the mid-size. I upgraded to, which one was it? The Seamaster chronograph, the 222-580 blue. It's the Bond, but with the Valjoux 7750. Very chunky, but gorgeous watch. And about this kind of time, I had been offered a job in Barcelona, so I moved for a year to Barcelona. The job finished, and I had a nice big pay package. I went into the store and I tried the Navitimer, and that kind of planted the seed for the Navitimer. I always loved aviation watches. I got the Hamilton X Patrol. As I wanted to go all automatic, my beta watches, I bought the Oris Aquis, I bought countless Hamiltons, and when I arrived back to New York, that's basically when I started the channel, because I thought, well, I'm flipping so many watches that I might as well make videos. And we're coming up to about 3 years ago now. The channel, this channel is about just under 3 years old. The 3rd year anniversary will be coming up in May, so it's March now. And what inspired me was the Aquis. Actually kind of really inspired me, because there were some reviews, but they weren't really talking about it. I had only been exposed to kind of, you know, the Omegas. I had a few Breitlings by that time. No one was really talking about the middle ground, the middle tier, the Hamiltons, the Oris Aquises, that kind of level. So I really wanted to talk about that, because I felt it wasn't being discussed enough on YouTube. It seemed to be, you know, entry level and then luxury, and not really much in between. And of course, that's all changed these days. Now, this kind of leads on to my biggest mistake. At this time, during Barcelona, I was obsessed with having a luxury-only collection. I had also bought my first Speedmaster at that time. Then I flipped it for the reduced. I was flipping so many watches. I stupidly sold the Citizen. I think I flipped it on eBay. And because I had got into the mindset that it wasn't worth anything because it wasn't a luxury watch. And it was such a huge mistake. It really is my biggest regret. I should have listed it as mistake number 16 on the video we did the other day. Watches are a reminder of periods in your life, of kind of, you know, some even sum up a whole decade, or experiences, places you've lived. That watch I wore the entire time living in Florence. God, I only wish I still own it. And I think maybe it was very, very similar actually to my little, basically it was a silver version of the my little Henry, the Tudor Date 8, and I think that's also part of the reason I love Datejust and I'm so obsessed with them. And I've kind of settled on this one, because this actually, now thinking about it, and this is what's great about doing a watch biography, it very much reminds me of that watch. I'm trying to recapture it, and that's what we do. I totally missed my Submariners and all my Rolexes and GMTs. Yeah, I've missed about 50 watches in this biography, but just before I started the channel, I think I turned 30, and yeah, it makes sense because I'm 33 now. Or am I 34? I can't actually remember. I can't remember how old I am. Yeah, it kind of makes sense because I turned 30. And I remember one of my very first videos was talking about my Submariner, which was a grail watch. I'd always lusted after it since childhood. I've kind of gone 360. I'm now rediscovering a lot of entry-level watches because it was a big mistake. I stupidly thought, well, now I've got into the luxury tiers, I don't, you know, you think you're going to keep on climbing. I'm kind of going back and rediscovering and really appreciating some of the entry-level pieces, the SKX as well. That's been a, you know, when I first owned the SKX, before I went into my luxury watches and the Rolexes and the Omegas, I didn't appreciate it for what it was. I do hear this a lot. Some people that have come into the luxury tiers, you know, they have mostly Rolexes and Omegas and the rest of it. They try and buy an SKX and they just can't connect with it because, well, you know, oh, it's just the quality's not there. Well, of course, it's you got to judge it for what it is. It's a budget watch at the end of the day, and it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be luxury, and I think I made that big mistake as well. So now I judge things for what they are. I enjoy them for what they are, whether it's luxury, an iconic luxury watch like this, or a really retro fun Casio, and that's what it's all about. So in a way, I've gone 360. I'm not obsessed with climbing the tiers anymore. I'm more obsessed with just finding watches that really make me happy. So it's been an incredible journey, and that pretty much is my watch biography. I'm missing out a ton of watches, but I thought I'd kind of share some of the key watches along the way with you guys. I don't think it's slowing down. I'm still, through the channel now, instead of constantly flipping, I'm borrowing watches in, which is great because now I don't have to buy watches all the time. It's you know, I'm still getting that unboxing thrill and sharing it with you guys, which I just think is fantastic, and getting to know watches, discussing its positives and negatives, never gonna end, I don't think. Even when I got my Langmatic in 10 years time, I'm still gonna be lusting after, you know, swatches on eBay and ridiculous Casios. And anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave it there before I ramble on far too much. But guys, do share your watch biographies down below. Which was your first luxury watch? How long have you been collecting? For me, I think I caught the watch bug probably seriously about 10 years ago. It's been about 10 years now, and by no means am I an expert, or, you know, I'm just a very enthusiastic enthusiast. I think is the best way to put it. So yeah, do share your thoughts, queries, questions. How long have you been collecting in the comments below? Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.